All right, so there's a lot to unload here on today's podcast. Right now, literally as I'm recording this podcast, I've got to the side of me on my laptop, I've got YouTube TV streaming on ESPN, just because, quite honestly, I don't care who the Vikings select on day 3, rounds 4 through 7. I really don't care. You're talking about players that will be lucky to even make the team. I know you have outliers once in a while, like a Stephon Diggs in the 5th round or Danielle Hunter. I believe he got selected in the 4th round, if I'm not mistaken. But those don't really happen all that often. You're talking about day 1 and day 2 picks, rounds 1 through 3, who are at least going to be either immediate contributors or close to immediate contributors to the team, whether that's in starting roles or immediate backup roles for the team. This is Realistic Randy, Mediokr at Best Sports Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. The reason why I got YouTube TV streaming right now is not because, I want to see who the Vikings select. It's more so because I got an alert on my phone by Bleacher Report that the Vikings, they're not actively shopping, but they're taking trade offers and phone calls from teams that voluntarily call the Minnesota Vikings for trade talks on Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes, and Kyle Rudolph. So just in case anything happens, I've got it on ESPN right now. Just in case anything happens, I'll be sure to react in real time, at least by the time while I'm recording this podcast anyway. So much to talk about. This is more so about the first 2 picks. Really, I guess the first 3 picks in the draft, rounds 1 through 3 for your Minnesota Vikings. We'll be sure to talk about that. And also at the end of this show, I have an announcement regarding the show and the schedule. I'm very excited to talk about that. But first, getting back to the draft. Thursday was day 1, first round of the NFL draft. So last week on Score North, I recorded a podcast in which I said I identified 4 position groups for the Minnesota Vikings that had areas of concern. Offensive line, tight ends, defensive tackles, and cornerbacks. So all the other position groups, I'm like, you're good, you're solid. If you want to add more on for depth, that's fine. But more so those 4 position groups, defensive tackle, offensive line, cornerbacks, and tight ends, that's where you still have some areas of concern where you still want to address that in the draft. And then came Thursday, day 1 of the NFL draft, in which case the Vikings got called upon with the 18th pick in the draft. And I said to myself, I didn't know what to expect. I was just sitting back just saying, all right, what are they going to do? I think I didn't really have any expectations. I guess maybe I was thinking they would take a cornerback or something. I was like, they're definitely going to go defense. And they ended up taking Garrett Bradbury, center out of NC State. And I was excited. I was like, wow, they really did it. They really took a first-round talent, offensive lineman in the first round. They really freaking did it. I want to say what I really want to say, but I can't. They really did it. And this is the first offensive lineman the Vikings have taken since Matt Khalil with the 4th overall pick in 2012. And the thing is with people say, well, if you draft for need, because yes, offensive line, that's the biggest need for this team. Well, if you need to go best player available in the first round, because if you go for need, you'll end up reaching, and that's how you end up with a Matt Khalil, a Christian Ponder, and a Laquan Treadwell. Well, not exactly, because Matt Khalil, I don't think, and Rick Spielman should not take any flack for drafting Matt Khalil with the 4th overall pick. Matt Khalil was thought of to be the next franchise left tackle of the future of the NFL, where he was basically just going to wreck the league, go into my Johnny Manziel bag, let's wreck this league together. Nobody thought that Matt Khalil would turn out to be the bust that he turned out to be. So, there's no sweat off of my back when it comes to Rick Spielman on drafting Matt Khalil. Christian Ponder, I'm sorry, find me one person. I'm sure there's at least one Vikings fan out there. I can't think of one person that was like, oh, my God, we reached and drafted Christian Ponder. I can't believe we did it. Oh, that's amazing. He's going to be great. I wasn't like that. I was more like, okay, let's see. Because quarterback is a different position where it's like, okay, he either has it or he doesn't. And if you're going to take a quarterback in the first round, you better make sure that he's going to be a hell of a player. So no one was jumping up to the rooftops or shouting to the rooftops and jumping up for joy for Christian Ponder. And then Laquan Treadwell, that wasn't a need for me. I was even saying, because if you remember, I think that was the same draft where, the Vikings, they may go after Devontae Parker because wide receiver, because I think he played at Louisville with Teddy Bridgewater, and this would be great. And I'm like, I don't care if it's Laquan Treadwell, if it's Devontae Parker, you need offensive linemen. Come on, get after this dude. This is the one thing we need to really be competitive. So they really did it. I like this dude a lot. This is a great pick. Shout out to Rick Spielman for finally, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of when you have the freedom to kind of where you've got a long leash on your job. You got the freedom to be a little bit creative. And you're like, you know what, I'm going to experiment a little bit. Try a couple of things, but then let's say you get a write-up or a warning or something like that, or in my old jobs where I worked in sales, we would call it you're on the radar. So as any little thing you do, your boss is looking at you for any reason to fire you or give you another write-up or whatever it is. So what happens? You go into work a half hour earlier than you normally do. You put on a fake-ass smile all day. You use more of a higher-pitched voice. Hi, how are you doing today? More than you would normally do. So anyway, I think this reeked a little bit of that where Rick Spielman, he's like, you know what, my job's on the line. Let me go after this first round offensive lineman. So that way, y'all can't blame me, damn it. All right, y'all been bitching for an offensive lineman in the first round forever. I went after it. So shout out to Rick Spielman. Albeit maybe because his job is on the line that finally he decided to take it a little bit seriously. Shout out to Mrs. Spielman. I'm sure this is a joke, but Rick Spielman got up on that podium before the draft and was like, my wife said, if you take another cornerback in the first round, don't come home. So I'm sure it was a joke, but damn it, I'm all for Mrs. Spielman. She is the real MVP. But anyway, I love this pick. You can't hate on this pick whatsoever. What I like about Garrett Bradbury is he's athletic, he's smart, he knows where he's supposed to be every single play. He knows how to move, he's strong, he's tough. And what's funny is, let's say on run plays where he's designed to get out to the second level, if the opportunity is there, he'll give a chip on the first level to assist his guards on the defensive line. He'll give a chip on the first level while fluidly still moving out because he's still athletic enough to fluidly move out to the linebackers and attack them. This dude is a gunner. I love his attitude. I love his swagger. And now you're talking about you're adding an offensive lineman. You've got 3 young, talented offensive linemen, assuming that Pat Elflein returns to form. You got to assume that with Garrett Bradbury, Pat Elflein, he's going to go to left guard. You now have 3 talented offensive linemen, Elflein, Bradbury, and Brian O'Neill, to be under the mentorship of Gary Kubiak. I'm very excited, man. You got to think. You've got to be excited. I'm excited. Vikings fans have got to be excited. Kirk Cousins is excited. Dalvin Cook, I know that dude is excited, man. This dude, hold on. Wait, where's the soundbite of this? Hold on, real quick. This is Dalvin Cook's reaction to the Vikings drafting Garrett Bradbury.
Guys, I call the grip reacher coach because I've never seen somebody reach more guys in the run.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, that is the sound of a man who probably before recording that selfie video of himself, he was probably screaming a lot higher and his voice just got hoarse as hell. So now you can barely hear anything, but he's excited. I think this is going to take this offense. This is going to give Kirk Cousins time to throw. This is going to give Dalvin Cook a lot more holes to run through. This is going to be some really, really good stuff. So now you got the coaching. You've got a respectable offensive line. Josh Klein is still a question mark. It's like wait and see how he does. Riley Reiff, you know what? At worst, he's an average left tackle. I'll take that. And you know what? I will say this. As much as I'd like to address Riley Reiff and replace him with an upgraded left tackle, you know what? I've gone, 5 years of watching Matt Khalil play left tackle to where it's like Riley Reiff is like, all right, out of 3 plays, he'll have 2 out of 3 plays where he's like, all right, he's doing his job. He's solid there. And then on that third play, it's like, all right, you know what? You could have been a little bit of disaster, but okay, we'll take that. Matt Khalil was literally every play, you didn't know what you were getting from that dude. Where it's like, I was sitting there having a heart attack, whereas every time the quarterback would snap the ball, I would look right at the left tackle position and be like, all right, what the hell is Matt Khalil bum ass about to do? So at least he's an upgrade over Matt Khalil, so I'll take that. So you at least have a respectable offensive line to give Kirk Cousins time to throw the ball and Dalvin Cook enough holes to run through. This is some really, really good stuff. And assuming it goes according to plan, the offense is going to be a lot better. And then you can really, really, truly look at Kirk Cousins to be like, we have put weapons, and I'll get into the second round pick in just a second. We have put enough weapons around you to where you have 0 excuses. You've got the coaching staff. You've got the players. It's all up to you now, Kirk. You like that? You better like that. So now, moving on to the second round, they drafted Irv Smith, Alabama, tight end out of Alabama, Irvin Smith Jr. Very excited about this pick. And you know what's funny? We'll get into Kyle Rudolph in a little bit. But comparing Irv Smith to Kyle Rudolph. Where the comparison lies is the first two factors are really two factors, really. Solid route running ability and pretty good hands. And after that, that's where it kind of stops. The difference between Irv Smith and a Kyle Rudolph is once they get the ball in their hands. So I thought Kyle Rudolph was extremely underrated last year. I thought he did a better job of being just a little bit more explosive to Kyle Rudolph standards anyway. Once he got the ball in his hands, yards after the catch, breaking tackles, welcoming contact, because before it's like, you know what, he would take the contact and then go, pew, just go immediately down. But even when he's running with the ball, because Zach Ertz, you can make the same argument for him where it's like, my in-laws, they're all Eagles fans, and they say they love Zach Ertz, but, all you got to do is just tap him on the shoulder and he goes down. But Zach Ertz, he's really explosive with his running, with his stride, with his knees. He really good at running once he has the ball in his hand. And with Kyle Rudolph, that's where the difference is, where it's like he doesn't really have the greatest amount of juking or agility moves in his back pocket. He's pretty much going to run where he runs. He's kind of fast, but he doesn't really have any moves to make any defenders miss. And Irv Smith, he can do it. He can juke you out like you're playing on the basketball court, and he breaks your ankles. I love his running style. I'm telling you right now, I've said this a couple of times, I like Visanthe Shanko back when he had Brett Favre. That's when he really looked good, because once he got the ball in his hand, once he had a quarterback to deliver him the ball anyway, Visanthe Shanko, he was nasty, explosive, just you could like a track star. He wasn't really fast, but man, just explosive with his knee movement, and you see that with Irv Smith. And I think, honestly, that's going to be the deciding factor that makes a hell of a difference right there. Now, what are they going to do with Kyle Rudolph as far as are they going to trade it? And that's why I got this on YouTube TV right now, just in case anything happens. Let me actually refresh this on Bleacher Report, too, just in case anything comes up. Anything? Nope. Okay. So, are they going to trade Kyle Rudolph? They still need to make a move to sign their draft picks, but are they going to keep Kyle Rudolph for his final year of his contract, where he's $7.6 million against the cap? Or are they going to keep Kyle Rudolph and do maybe two tight end sets a lot of the times? Maybe kind of reminiscent of the Bill Belichick and the Patriots when they had Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, to where if you have two tight end sets, suddenly you don't necessarily have to worry about the wide receiver 3 spot. You can have two tight ends along with your two receivers and then your running backs after that and make stuff happen. So I think that's going to be really good. I really like this a lot. You're giving Kirk Cousins some weapons, man. I think Dalvin Cook, he's going to have an explosive year. I think Irv Smith, he's going to take this offense over the top. And with Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, man, when that offensive line, Garrett Bradbury, Kirk Cousins has no excuses. Solid. You address two position groups of areas of concern with your first two picks in the draft. Solid. Up to this point, Rick Spielman, A+. I'm like, oh, man, this is a great draft so far. Let's see what happens. And for the rest of the draft, really more so with the third-round draft pick, and that brings me to the point that we have right there. I was hoping, someone asked me on Twitter, who would you like the Vikings to take with the third-round draft pick at, 81? I was like, Kalen Saunders out of Western Illinois, defensive tackle. I think he was the best player, at least available for the Vikings to take as far as addressing the defensive tackle spot. Linval Joseph, he's getting up there in age. Shamar Stephen, he can be fine, but not necessarily somebody you want to rely upon all season. I mean, if he's going to be a starter, you really need your linebackers to play really good or really excel in 2019. But defensive tackle, you need to address that. I'm like, Kalen Saunders, I would go after him with the 81st pick in the draft. And then all of a sudden, it's like Rick Spielman. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to bitch about this. I'm really not. This is the year where I'm really just sitting back and just observing. I don't have the energy to go off anymore. But it's like, it's funny because you could almost sense the wheels turning in Rick Spielman's head. He's like, all right, I got the offensive lineman. You want it, damn it. I got a tight end, damn it. Now I'm ready to trade back and rack up some draft picks, because he likes to have double-digit draft picks every single year. All right, I'm about to do it. And he started trading back and trading back and trading back. I think he made 4 trades in day 3 last night on Friday, to where, okay, let's list this right now. So they originally started with the 81st pick in the draft. So the 81st pick in the third round. So they started off by trading back 7 spots to the 88th pick, to acquire the 204th pick in the 6th round from the Detroit Lions. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And at that point, you could have drafted the Minnesota Vikings. They missed out on a lot of good players in the 3rd round, but we'll get to who they actually selected and what the ripple effect may be. Kalen Saunders would have been available at 81. Instead, he was taken by the Kansas City Chiefs with the 84th pick in the draft. And I'm like, why are they doing this? Why are they trading back? Then they ended up trading back again. They traded back another 4 spots, so they went from 81 to 88. They traded back another 4 spots to the 92nd pick and gave up the 209th pick in the 6th round for the 159th pick in the 5th round from Seattle. And I'm like, what are you doing? And it's funny because someone tweeted at me. They're like, well, they're trying to get a 5th round draft pick. I don't think the Vikings had a 5th round draft pick in 2019. But it's like, hey, they didn't have a 5th round draft pick in 2019, so now they get one. I don't see what the big deal is. And I'm like, yo, okay. I get the whole you want to rack up draft picks. It's a crapshoot, but quality does not equate quantity. And when I say that, oh my God, we have 10 draft picks. So basically, they ended up with 9 draft picks in day 3, okay, to use through rounds 4 through 7. Okay, fine. Here's the history of the Minnesota Vikings. This isn't even speculation. This is fact. The last 10 years, excluding today, the last 10 years, the Minnesota Vikings have selected 15 players in the 5th round. Of those 15 players, just 2 of those players were actually legit contributors to the team. Stephon Diggs and Jeff Locke, a damn punter. So that's 13 other players where it's like, they're either not on the team or they're really, really not doing all that much. So I don't understand. Yeah, we got all these draft picks to use in the later rounds, but if they're not making the team, what's the point of doing that? So anyway, moving on from that, so the 92nd pick, they moved back to the 92nd pick and gave up the 209th pick in the 6th round for the 159th pick in the 5th round from Seattle. Then after that, they traded back again 1 spot to the 93rd pick to get the 217th pick in the 7th round from the Jets. The 7th round from the Jets. Then they traded back again. Bro, they traded back again. 9 spots to the final pick in the 3rd round, the 102nd pick. They moved back 21 draft picks. They moved down 21 picks from 81 to 102 to gain two 6th round draft picks from Baltimore. They did all that to draft a running back with the 102nd pick in the NFL draft. The last pick in the 3rd round, they did all that to pick a running back. Alex Madison, running back out of Boise State. And look, I'm not sitting here. I'm not trying to denigrate this dude. This dude could be really good. I don't know anything about this dude. He could be really, really good. But guess what? Mike Boone, he's pretty good too. And guess what? Mike Boone went undrafted, okay? You can find running. So not only the position itself where it's like, okay, you can find running backs anywhere, but also the position group, it wasn't really as needed compared to, all right, you already addressed offensive line, you already addressed defensive end, or not defensive end, tight end, you still have defensive tackle, and you still have cornerbacks to address. The running back was really like towards the bottom. You can find running backs anywhere. So that's why I'm like, I don't understand why you did all that. And don't tell me, oh, this is we had Alex Madison. He was on our board for the 3rd round the entire time, so we knew we could get him with a 102nd pick. No, this was more so about racking up draft picks so you could still get your double-digit draft picks. Or Chris Tomasin brought up how, this could do with the cap because this will make things a lot easier. The Vikings continuously trading back. It will make things easier for the Vikings to sign their draft picks because they don't have that much room in the cap. And I'm like, that still goes on Rick Spielman in how you handled the offseason initially with free agency, where it's like, yo, you brought back Everson Griffin. And again, I am very happy with the first 2 picks, okay? But I'm being extremely fair here. You could have had Stephen Weatherly take over for Everson Griffin. Well, not really Everson Griffin's spot, but at least where you have Danielle Hunter take over Everson Griffin's spot and have Stephen Weatherly take over for Danielle Hunter's old spot at left end, he's $720,000 against the cap. You went out of your way. Everson Griffin originally was going to make just over $12.5 million in 2019. You restructured him. Okay, fine. I was like, you either trade, cut, or restructure him. They restructured him. I'm like, okay, this is good. But you only restructured him to where he shaves off $4.5 million. So he's still going to make $8 million in 2019. Dude, Everson Griffin is not $7.5 million better than Stephen Weatherly. So you strapped yourself against the cap right there. And then you didn't even address Kyle Rudolph. That's $7.6 million right there against the cap that you're still taking on, in which he's been public by saying, yeah, I would take a restructure. So, you know what? That's not really an excuse for me to. But you know what? It's all good. We'll see what happens. As far as the rest of this draft is concerned, we'll see what happens. So it looks like no moves were made in this draft at all with the Minnesota Vikings, at least by the time of this recording. So I don't know. We'll have to see how this all plays out, man. But you know what? The first two picks, I'm really excited. I'm actually shocked that the Vikings didn't go defense in the second round or the third. They went all offense in the first 3 rounds. I'm shocked they didn't go defense in the second round to at least acquiesce and make Mike Zimmer happy, because he's like, I want defensive players. I'm very surprised that they didn't do that. But you know what? They've at least given Kirk Cousins some weapons to work with, and Dalvin Cook should have a much better year. You can revolve this offense around Dalvin Cook to where Kirk Cousins, Stephon Diggs, and Adam Thielen, and now with Irv Smith, depending on you, if you keep Kyle Rudolph for maybe 2 tight end sets, that they'll complement Dalvin Cook. So, you know what? The only thing is with Alex Madison, you know, he could be good. I'm not saying that he's not. You could find guys, undrafted free agents, guys, running backs, 5th or 6th or 7th rounds, to where it's like, okay, to where you draft not only the position, but the area of need, the running back position, backup running back at that, wasn't up there, up in the totem pole, to where it's like, okay, you drafted this dude. You passed up on Kalen Saunders. You passed up on a lot of dudes in the 3rd round. This dude, Alex Madison, he better be Mark Ingram to Dalvin Cook's Alvin Kamara. So that's all I'm saying. We'll see how it all plays out. Oh, yes. Before I sign off, there is an announcement regarding this show. So I went from doing this show once a week on my channel to twice a week, once on Score North and once on my channel, to where now the show is expanding starting next week. Next week, we are doing this show 3 times a week, twice on Score North and once on Saturdays on this channel that you're watching right now, Realistic Randy. The schedule is for Score North, Mondays and Thursdays, okay? So usually I was doing Tuesdays and Saturdays. Now, Mondays and Thursdays on Score North. You can just look up Score North, SKOR North, and you'll see that on Mondays and Thursdays. And then on Saturdays is the 3rd podcast we'll be doing this week, or the 3rd podcast we'll be doing in the week. That will be on this channel right here. I appreciate all the support. I'm very excited for this show to keep on expanding, man. This is some good stuff. Overall, the grade that I would give Rick Spielman on the draft, because free agency, I would say C minus. Actually, I would probably say a D. But the draft, if it wasn't for these 4 trade backs that you did, that was really unnecessary to get a bunch of dudes that you're probably not going to allow to be on the team or not going to have on the 53-man roster. You're going to end up drafting a bunch of players that you're going to end up getting cut anyway. You went from what I deemed as an A+, the first 2 picks, where it's like, okay, we're probably looking at a B. I'll give them a B, solid B, because this offense is going to be a heck of a lot better, and that's worth the difference alone. That's worth all the trouble of trading back. So we'll see how this works out. We now do this 3 times a week. Mediokr Best Sports Podcast with Realistic Randy. If a trade is imminent, damn it, something's going to happen. You got to sign your draft picks. We'll see what happens. Is it going to be Kyle Rudolph? Is it going to be Xavier Rhodes? Is it going to be Trey Waynes? We will see. Otherwise, I'll react to it. If not, I will see you on Monday on Score North.